It was just supposed to be parent-teacher interviews. Why am I so emotional right now? Jeez. Well, I mean, it's Fruits Basket. I don't know what I'm expecting. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Fruits Basket discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about Season 2, Episode 15, See You Later. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you, if you have not hit that subscribe button, then do so. And if you are sick of hearing me say that, then tell your friends, hit that subscribe button. Tell your dog to hit that subscribe button. Tell your goldfish. I don't care. Get everybody with an account you know to hit that subscribe button. Okay, maybe not really, but still, you should do it. All right, then, with that said, you better buckle up, my adorable buttercups, because we're about to get into some nonsense. That said, prepare your feelings, because they're probably about to take a beating. We start this week's episode with the first scene where Yuki is talking with Teach, and this man immediately starting off on the emotional foot. And this is pretty, like, when I saw this first scene, I'm like, oh, this gonna be a painful one, isn't it? Like, you just knew immediately. Yuki's mom changed the date of the parent-teacher meeting at the last second, because of course she did. As you will find out, Yuki's mom is the friggin' worst. And Toru, when Toru hears this, she sort of stumbles up to him and says, like, listen, like, I really think you should do your best, like, try your best and think about your future more, like, think about what you want to do. And as she's saying this, she sort of flashes back to the beach arc. The beach! She flashes back to the beach arc, and she sees Akito, like, saying, like, stop meddling, stay out of the way. And the only thing about this scene that I didn't like is Toru saying, like, I'll try not to meddle or anything. I'm like, no, Toru! You meddle! You meddle all you want because you are a beautiful influence on everybody's lives, including ours and the people watching. Toru's just the friggin' sweetest. But yeah, I do think that this opening scene is perfect foreshadowing for all of the chaos yet to come, since it's like literally it is like this scene is the crux of what is eventually going to be like the big scene of the episode. There's a lot of like small scenes that we do have to get to and talk about, but there's like one big scene, and that's Yuki's parent-teacher meeting. But I do think this opening scene does a very excellent job of building up that foreshadowing until we get to the opening. And then once the opening subsides, we get to the next scene. And this is where we see the main squad, or not the main squad, I guess, but the girls doing their parent-teacher conferences. And I appreciate that we start with Uo, because Uotani is just the friggin' coolest. Like, Uo's the best. And I love that she's sort of in the same boat as Toru, where she just wants to start working straight away. Like, she's not really interested in heading off to college. Like, she just kind of wants to start working first and then head out there. And I do think that that's like a valid option. Like, you know, you don't have to go to college right away. You can just start working first and then go to college later if you feel like it, or you don't. Like, I've been to college twice. Honestly, it's if you want to go, it's fine, but it's mostly for your own knowledge, you know. Like college is an interesting topic, and I don't really want to dive too far into it, but I do think that it's interesting that both Uo and later Toru say that they want to start working right away, and Hana is just hoping to graduate. but I love that Uo mentions that she wants to be a model because Toru said that she was really pretty and should be a model. So Uo's like, I think I'll start working right away as a model, and everybody's like, you can't just say that lightly. Like, you can't just pull that out of the air. Damn it, Uo. But yeah, Uotani's little scene is great. I loved Hana's scene as well. Hana was me in high school, where I'm like, God, I don't even know what my future plan is. I just hope I graduate. I don't really, I'm not planning much beyond that. Like, I was Hana growing up, like 110%. Hana too, like, I loved, like, Hana, try your best, and just teaches like, I mean, yeah. That's a noble goal considering it's you. But dang. Hana gets a lot of like, not a lot, but Hana's scenes in this episode are hitting every single time. And there's something we gotta talk about in regards to my girl Hana. We'll get there, but just table that discussion. Table that for another time. We gotta keep moving. For here, we get to Toru's parent-teacher interview. But of course, Toru's aunt decided not to show up because, again, we found out last episode she didn't really want to go. And since Toru's Gramps has his threw out his back or his hip, I don't remember. I think it was his back. He can't go either. So if you remember, it was Shigure. But I don't think Shigure actually wanted to go. He just kind of wanted to bug our girl Mayu, aka Teach, and he does that. Teach is absolutely pissed to see this boy, and I don't blame her. My man strolls in and acts all casual like, "Oh, Mayu-chan, so good to see you, blah, blah, blah." Like, this whole thing, and I'm just sitting there like, this is the man I have chosen as my husbando. This is the path I have chosen to walk. Hattori, it's not too late. You can leave Mayu. You can leave Teach. I mean, I know you two haven't even gotten together yet, but like, and I know I said that I'm willing to split, I'm willing to let Teach have Hattori, because Teach is my, like, surrogate in the show so far, but like, man, I'm second guessing that decision. but yeah. My dopey ass husbando. And yes, I still think Teach is my surrogate in the show. Like, Teach is my avatar within the show. Like, that is who Mayu is. Like, I am just straight up Mayu in the show. That is who I am. And yeah, I don't know. I loved this scene. I especially loved when, like, all these little, like, jabs that the two of them take at each other throughout the ep. Like, when we see Toru say, or Shigure say to Toru, rather, well, you should just marry me then. You know, I am 28. I'm getting quite up there. And I'm like, Shigure, you are a year older than me. Please don't say you're getting old, because you're going to make me feel old. But, like, Shigure basically trying to get Toru to marry him just to be a jerk. And Teaches like, you shouldn't say that, because marriage is kind of a big deal to some girls. Like, a proposal is kind of important. Can't just be throwing that out there. And they're smiling at each other the whole time, but you just feel the icy cold atmosphere in the air. How Toru even feels it. They actually, like, straight up show, like, ice coming off the two of them. It was really, really funny. And this man wore Hattori's suit just to be that guy. He straight up wore Hattori's suit to the interview just to get under Teach's skin. And it's like, my boy, what are you doing? Just, what are you doing? And he even says, like, you talk like I'm evil incarnate. I'm like, that's because you are. Like, you're not, but, like, you act that way. So, of course, people are going to react to you like that. Shigure. And I know I just spent the entirety talking about Toru's meeting by talking about Shigure and Teach. My bad. Let's actually talk a little bit about what Toru wants to do. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Toru wants to start working right away. And she said that that's still the plan. And we sort of flashed to Kyoko, so I'm like, okay. So Mama Honda apparently had a plan with Toru, I guess, or Toru had a plan when she was still getting over Kyoko's death, I think. I'm not super sure, but there was a plan. It seems like plans have not changed. Toru still wants to just start working straight away, which is fine. Like, there's no, like, again, like I said with Uo, like, you don't necessarily have to go to college. I do think it's something you should do, but it's not, like, mandatory. You don't have to. There's nothing wrong with not going. So I was like, okay, right on. Interesting decision, Toru. Interesting decision. But what I love is when Teach looks at her and says, like, hey, don't try to bear everything by yourself. And that is, like, okay, I know that that's a lesson that a lot of characters have to learn in this show, but it's one that I'm glad that people are really hammering home for Toru, because Toru puts so much onto herself. Like, my girl really is, like, shouldering the weight of everybody's burdens, and does so with a smile on her face. Like, we were like, we all remember the story of, like, the girl who kept giving parts of herself away to everybody because that's what they needed and all this. And that really is Toru. Like, I used to think that it was almost a little bit endearing, but now I'm at the point, like, when even Teach says it, it's like, yeah, Toru, like, I love that she is so genuinely sweet and is so concerned for the people around her that she is willing to take that burden on. That's great, but, like, at the same time, people love her because she's so sweet and don't want her to continue to carry their burdens for them. So I do hope that Toru, as the show goes on, starts to kind of be, like, I don't want to say selfish, because there's nothing selfish about taking time for yourself. But I hope Toru starts to take some personal time, you know, because she deserves it. Toru's the best. And it's interesting, too, right? Because once Toru leaves the room so that Shigure and Teach can talk, there's this scene where Teach says, like, you better be taking good care of her because she deserves it. Like, and, like, you better not be taking advantage of her kindness. And Shigure is like, you know, you're not the first person to say that to me. and then it cuts to Rin, and I'm like, what the hell? This is what you two talked about? Like, so it's Rin from that time where I was just like, what the hell's going on there? Ooh, that's not good. Like, you remember during the beach arc where I was like, don't like that. Apparently, it was just a conversation, even though Rin was looking a little suggestive. But apparently, they talk about Toru. And Rin says, like, do you view all of us just like paper, like discarded paper and books on a shelf? Like, do you actually care about people like her? And it's like, damn, Rin, like, where did that come from? But I like it because at the same time, like, why do you care? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, Rin, do you care? You care. Like, again, like this, there's a few, last week it was with Yuki and Kyo, right? Where I'm like, do you care? You care. And now this week I'm like, Rin, do you care? She cares. Like, it's just like, oh man, I gotta put that on a shirt. Do you care? We care. Like, just, oh man. But yeah, we care is the new we stand. Because don't stand things. I think I've mentioned that before. Like, if you say we stand as a joke, I'm with you. But if you actually say I stand this, then I judge you. You stand ironically, never earnestly. A message from JoJo Talks Too Much. But yeah, I really dug the Rin scene. It definitely hit me, right? Because I was like, whoa. Like, that kind of, like, not that it came out of nowhere. Like, there was inklings of this. That Rin is, like, doing like, what Rin is doing is trying to help in some way, like in her own mind. So it's like, that's like, we've known that for a while, but it was just kind of not surprising, but like, oh wow, that's cool. Like, I can't explain it. It's not quite a surprise, but it's still a surprise. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But I love that Shigure just kind of like admits that and then fires back with like, I'm doing my best. It's like, yeah, I mean, we know. But again, Shigure, like, I don't think Shigure is bad. And I've said that before too. I don't think what Shigure is doing is evil. I did up until the beach arc. Like, I wasn't sure what this man's plan was, and I feel like I have a better idea of what his plan is after the beach arc. And it's nice to see characters still be sort of wary of him, because they didn't have the same, like, cathartic, like, oh shit, now I get it type moment. So a lot of people still just see him as being kind of shady. But no, I trust my husbando. I trust my Shigure 100%. Even though, again, I can respect that some of the stuff he does is kind of shady and a little bit douchey, but like, that's my husbando. I could have picked a Tory, but I gave him to teach. That may have been a mistake. I love you, Shigure. Anyway, let's move on to the next scene. We have the anxious talk between Uo, Hana, and Toru. And Toru, okay, this is, again, y'all know me. I love me some symbolism. And yes, even though we don't get any, like, real new characters, and no, I'm not doing any color psychology on Yuki's mom, because that bitch don't deserve it. But there is some color psychology a little bit later. But I do want to talk a little bit about symbolism, because I don't get to talk about that as much as I get to talk about colors, even though I love me some pretty colors. But there is a little bit of symbolism in this scene, specifically with Toru, right? So when Toru is, like, in her own head, when Uo and Hana show up just to kind of check in on her, she kind of goes inward, and we see flashes of, like, of Mama Honda leaving, and then Toru, like, running in and seeing what I think, and this broke my heart, is like Toru running in and like opening a door frantically, and then there's a body on the ground, and I'm like, oh, I never wanted to see that. I never wanted to see what I'm pretty sure I just saw. Because Kyoko, like, even though I know she's dead, she has such a presence on the show that it's like, I never want to see the moment, you know what I mean? I never want to see the moment or the immediate aftermath. But yeah, that hurt. But then we see Kyo, which I was like, okay, interesting. And then the visuals of that get put into like a box, and then that box is shut and sinks into this like dark abyss. And it's like, okay, see, that is literally Toru bottling up her feelings. You know, that's Toru putting all of her negative emotions, her bad memories, and her biggest fears, and putting them into a box, shutting that box, and throwing it into the abyss with the power of Zeus. But yeah, That's a great metaphor. Like, again, it's just a visual metaphor, a little bit of symbolism, if you will. And I think that's a good representation of what Toru is going through right now. She is literally just bottling up her emotions so that she can, as I said earlier, shoulder the burdens of everybody around her, and that's not healthy. And I do think that Hana and Uo notice this, as they straight up say, like, you should be free to open up. Like, we care about you. So don't go bottling things up like that. Like, be free to speak your mind, Toru. Like, it's okay. And I love those two for that. It's such a great scene. And they both mentioned, too, by the way, that Shigure is bad news. And again, it's why I mentioned earlier that I don't think Shigure is necessarily bad news. I just think he has plans that can be perceived as being quite bad, and the collateral damage is not something he's necessarily... he's probably aware of, but he's not necessarily concerned with, because he's like, they'll get over it. Like, he's that kind of guy. I don't necessarily think his intentions are bad, but some of the immediate effects could be bad. But again, I don't think he's necessarily bad news. But what's more interesting, to me anyway, remember how earlier I said to keep an eye on Hana, because we're to put a pin in the Hana discussion, because we're going to come back to it? Well, here we go. So Kyo arrives to school with Shishio, with our lad Kazuma, and immediately they're like, wow, that's not who I expected to be his dad. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, biologically no, but I mean, in every other sense, yeah, that's his old man. And then Hana says that Kazuma is handsome. What is it with Uo and Hana and older dudes? What the hell? Listen, like, do I disagree? Frick no. Kazuma's fine as hell. I'm not arguing that. My concern is that he is significantly older. In fact, I'm fairly certain he's older than Kureno. So, what's with the older dudes? Is that gonna be an actual thing? Is Hana gonna get together with Kazuma? I don't know how to feel about that. I don't think she will. I don't think it's that serious. But again, I was like, damn, okay, that came right the hell out of nowhere. But speaking of Kyo and Kazuma, let's actually get into Kyo's meeting, which again is not quite the big meeting that I know you all want me to talk about. And again, we'll get to it as we go. You guys said you like these longer videos, so you're gonna have to deal with it. Let's talk about Kyo's future. And as we know, that future is currently looking kind of bleak. I don't necessarily know how things will go, but we'll see. Kyo seems himself to be pretty unsure. Like when Teach asks, like, what do you want to do, man? His response is just sort of like, my career path, huh? I hadn't really thought of that. Like, it's just him sort of like in his head. And as we find out later, like in the aftermath of the meeting, all he really wants to do, like all he wants in this life right now is to stay with Toru, which is like, the ship is so strong. Like Kyotoru, Kyoru, whatever, Torio, whatever you want to give the ship name, Kyotoru, that's where it's at. Like, this ship is so strong. This ship is so strong, it sails itself. It is the most impenetrable ship. It's fantastic. But yeah, like the fact that this man, all he wants to do is stay with Toru. I was like, Kyo, you're gonna put me in my feelings again. I don't need to be here right now. Especially considering I'm about to be in my feelings once we get to the Yuki stuff. But I couldn't tell if like this was meant to be funny, but I did laugh, is when Kazuma says like, I can't really see Kyo as a college student or a working adult. And Teach is like, yeah, me either. Like, she doesn't say it like that, but she's like, yeah, I can see that. And it's like, damn, you two. Like, they could have said that a little bit nicer. And at first, I didn't want to laugh, because I was like, was that supposed to be because like he's worried like Kyo will get locked up? But I don't think so, because Kazuma later says like that he's worried about Kyo, but he doesn't want to make decisions for him. And that is very important, because that's going to be a great mirror for a certain other parent once we get there. But the fact that Kazuma's like, listen, man, like, I worry about your future, of course, but I'm also not going to decide for you what you should and shouldn't do. Whatever you do, I'll support you, because that's all I'm here to do. Like, I'm just here to guide you, give you advice, take care of you. But when it comes to your future, you're the one in charge. Like, you make the decision. And it's like, damn, Kazuma, like, how did you become such a great-ass parent? Like, where, like, goddamn. I like, it's just, the man's fantastic. And then we get to visiting Shigure's place after this, like the gang all pretty much after the meetings, they go back to Shigure's place. And Hana, again, really enforces that she is very much interested in Kazuma. And even Shigure's like, wait, doesn't Kazuma get a say in any of this? Like, wait, like, does this man get a say? Because even Uo's just like, nah, man, I'm on board. Let's do this. Because, again, Uo's just like, hey, I'm interested in this other guy. And he's also significantly older than me. So I guess Uo's just, like, on board. Toru doesn't seem to care either way. Yuki just seems surprised. And Kyo seems mortified. Like, that seems to be the way of it. But it is funny to see, like, the whole gang just being together, talking about Kazuma and Hana getting together. Like, I jokingly, again, I really can't see that happening. But it's just nice because it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that, like, the Toru friend group and the immediate Soma group that we were first introduced to, they really have become like a blended unit, and it's nice to see the whole gang get together, hang out, and have some fun, and it's really sweet. Even if Kyo's mind is strictly just like Toru, like just Toru, like 24/7 all day. You just listen. It's like listening to a radio show that never ends. It's just Toru, like 110%. That's where this man's mind is the entire conversation at Shigure's place. But still, it was a nice scene. I really liked it. But now we must move on to the biggest part of the episode. The biggest of the biggest big. We get the Yuki parent-teacher meeting, and it starts with a phone call, as all things seem to. And in my notes here, and again, part of my language here, but I wrote this down, and I feel like it's important to really give you my raw feelings. When I'm writing my notes, right, I write them down as I'm watching the episode, and this little bullet point I have here under phone call just says, Yuki's mom is the fucking worst. This woman is the fucking worst. I hate her. What is it with the Somas, man? Like, why y'all, I know why. Like, I know why. There's the curse and all this hoopla and a bunch of other, like this, that, and the other thing. I get it. But damn, like, why is, like, almost every Soma outside of, like, the ones that we know, except for even that, oh, God, why do they all suck? I really hope that somebody just punches that chick in the face. Like, I hope Uo just kicks the shit out of Yuki's mom. For no other reason than just because it would be nice to see. It'd be cathartic. Can't believe she treated my boy like that. Like, and it sends Yuki into a damn spiral. Like, hearing her be so cold to him over the goddamn phone. Like, just sending him into despair yet again. Like, seeing him just stare at her. Like even after the phone call, just looking at this kid. Oh, just looking at my man staring at this woman getting out of this car. And he's staring at her in the rain. Because of course it's raining. Because that's how my boy is feeling. Again, visual storytelling. The rain is literally mimicking how Yuki is feeling right now. Just seeing this woman puts him into a downward spiral, puts him into a downpour. Like, he just can't, like, everything's gloomy. He just can't think straight. Like, he just feels trapped and just not good. Damn it. And that flashback too, man. Like the way that she He literally, you're his mother. And listen, you're his mom. And your child turns to you and says, Akito is saying scary things and I don't feel safe around them. Help me, I want to go home. And you say, oh, the head of the family has taken an interest in you. Good for you. And you push him away. Go to hell, you despicable woman. Oh my God, like, that is awful. Awful. What she's doing. Like, her, the friggin' granny who's at the Soma estate all the time, that nag who just keeps nagging all these people, Akito themselves, like, just everything. There's always, like, okay, with the Somas, there's the ones that we love, and we do love them. But then there's Somas like this who just drive me insane and cause nothing but pain and misery, because that just sometimes it really do be like that. Let's just get to the meeting. Oh my god. Okay, so this waste of human life says that she sees this as a waste of her time, ironically enough. So she says, like, this whole thing is a waste of time, and she's already decided which schools Yuki will be attending, but, like, all this absolute nonsense. And again, as I said, it's an important mirror to have the Kazuma scene happen before this, because Kazuma is not deciding for Kyo. Kazuma wants Kyo to decide for himself. He obviously cares and wants the best, and he has his own. He probably has his own vision of what is best for Kyo, but he's not going to make that decision for him because that's not what a good parent does. Meanwhile, you have this bitch who's making decisions for Yuki. Can you tell how defensive I am of these characters by now? Like, I just heard it in my voice. Like, but this bitch making decisions for Yuki without this man's say. And, like, again, like, just this awful crap. And so Teach, of course, gets pissed, right? Because Teach is like, Teach can see how toxic this dynamic is. So Teach is like, hey, I really can't have you speaking to him like that. This is not okay. You can't talk to him like that. And then Teach immediately gets into it with this bitch, that is officially Yuki's mom's nickname here on the channel. This bitch. And this bitch gets into it with Teach. And I'm like, oh, Teach, kick her ass. Oh, Teach, I know you can't. But Teach, just like, if you see this girl on the street, because that's where she belongs to the streets. And if you see this girl on the streets, Teach, please roundhouse kick her into next week. Either you or Uo, for the love of God. Like, I don't condone violence, except in this case. And again, like, as they're having this argument, right? And, like, this is, by the way, another perfect visual metaphor for how Yuki is feeling. The friggin' distance between between Teach and his mom and him as, like, the table stretches, it's such a good metaphor for how Yuki is feeling. That is actually a perfect metaphor, in my opinion, for anxiety, which, now that I'm saying it out loud, Yuki definitely has anxiety, doesn't he? Like, Yuki definitely has an anxiety issue. I never even thought about it until right now. I've probably thought about it once or twice, like Yuki might have, like, anxiety problems. But man, like, that metaphor, I'm like, I have been there, dog. Like, I have felt that. I feel like everybody's felt that, like, intense anxiety where you just feel separated from, like, the rest of the world. Like, the rest of the world seems so far away as you just shrink inwards, you know? Like, that horrible sinking feeling. That's what Yuki is feeling. Like, it's just, holy shit, that scene is so good. And the flashback too, like, the flashback cemented it for me, right? Where I'm like, maybe she's having a bad day. I don't know, but, like, maybe she's overprotective or some shit. I don't know. Maybe she's just oblivious to what's going on with Akito. Maybe I'm being, like, too judgmental. Maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but no, this flashback cemented it. Where she just, like, where she refuses, like, not refuses, but she's like, you want to go to school? Like, why? Like, that's, like, you want to go to a school outside of the estate? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why? Right? And he says, like, I want to just go out there. Like, nobody forced me to do it. It's just I don't like the estate. Like, I don't like this place. And she's like, you never mentioned that when you were a kid. It's like, she did mention that when he was a kid. Ooh. And then he hits her with, am I just a tool to you? And she fires back with, what if you were? And that made my skin crawl. Because it's like, there's too much screen time being given to this bitch. I hate Yuki's mom. I don't hate her as much as I hate Akito, but holy shit is it close. But thankfully, Aya, to the goddamn rescue, my boy arrives in spectacular fashion, I might add. My boy arrives with just, like, oh my god, like, just the instant he arrives, I'm like, like, just this, like, immediate, like, yay, it's Ayame, he's here to save the day, Aya's here, thank God. And it's, okay, in fairness, I should mention that I knew he was gonna show up. Because, A, he did mention that the conferences were coming up way, like, a while ago, and that he should go. B, unfortunately, because I record these, or at the very least, I want to record these the day before, right? So when you're seeing this, you are seeing this on Wednesday. I recorded this on Tuesday. And when I record these, I watch them just before, right? So you get my raw emotions, which means that I don't get to watch FruBa on Mondays with everybody else, so sometimes stuff happens on the timeline, and people can't help it, and I'm not upset by anybody posting about FruBa on the timeline. You know, it's my own fault for my schedule, you know, so it's on me. So I saw Ayame in the conference room, so I was like, shit. So I knew he was gonna show up. So this whole time, and I've been waiting to say that, because this whole time that this conference is going on, even when his mom shows up, I'm like, Ayame, show up, Ayame, Aya, show up, man, because I need you, my boy. I need you right now. Like the entire time, just screaming for Aya to show up. And here he is, in all his glory. And might I add that even Yuki gets all bubbly to see him. Shit was adorable. And Aya, by the way, that ensemble, my boy, that ensemble, Aya making a play for husbando right now, because that ensemble was pure perfection, my boy. Like, as always, by the way, my man looking top tier, as always. My God, and it's a mostly red ensemble. Like, now, keep in mind, it was a little hard for me to tell because there's this sort of like gloomy lighting going on. There's the rain from outside is sort of illuminating the room in this sort of like blue tinge, right? It's a little bit hard to see what the colors are on Ayame's costume exactly, but it looked like a lot of red, right? It's a mostly red ensemble. I think there was a scarlet shirt and pants. And that coat that he's wearing, first of all, that coat is fabulous. And that was mahogany. I'm not even sorry. You know I had to do it to him. Also, there's some gold trimming on the mahogany coat. So yeah, worth noting, right? So the whole thing is red. I think Ayame picked that on purpose because my boy walking in with true confidence and a true passion to protect his little brother, and it's adorable as hell. That, like, okay, knowing Aya, I might even just, anytime I see Aya in a different outfit, there's a good chance I'm probably going to mention it because my man picks out his costumes very specifically. So I think all those, like every outfit this man wears, every fantabulous ensemble that this man puts on, I think there's a purpose behind it. So the mere fact that he wore something different, I'm gonna point it out, and that's why you get in some color psychology right now. Definitely trying to exude red energy right now. Like, you know, he's exuding confidence and passion. Red is also typically associated with leadership, so you should remember that for the end of the video. But the other thing I should probably mention, because it's funny, well, there's two things I should further mention about the outfit. But the one thing I want to mention because it's funny is he's wearing brown slippers. Because my man be cozy. But no, if I'm making a guess, the brown slippers, when I saw that, because when I didn't notice it at first, it was when I went back, because when I'm writing, like, I'll take notes, and then I'll, like, go through my notes and kind of, like, jump back to certain points in the episode just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Doesn't always work. You guys have definitely heard me make screw-ups, both in the FruBa videos and just any video here on the channel. But when I went back to look at Aya's ensemble, I'm like, is my man wearing slippers? Like, you could just, I was like, why is my man wearing slippers? It's raining. But I think the slippers definitely supposed to indicate, like, A, my man's funny, and B, he's comfortable in his own skin. Like, Aya is perfectly comfortable right now. He has, like, he's not walking in there out of fear of his mother. Like, he needs to protect Yuki from his terrible mother. He's like, nah, I gotta protect Yuki because she's gonna say some dumb shit and he doesn't deserve to hear that. I'm comfortable standing up for myself. Like, that's what the slippers, I think, are supposed to mean. As for the bouquet of roses, which is the second thing I had to mention about the ensemble, first of all, it matches the rest of his ensemble. Take a shot every time I say ensemble. You will be absolutely drunk, if not dead. Don't actually do that. Don't want to be responsible for any deaths. But he's also rocking the bouquet of roses for my girl Teach, because roses, while they do symbolize love quite a bit, they also symbolize respect, right? So it's like, here, I got you these as a symbol of my respect to you. And Teach is like, man, Aya, I forgot what a dork you are. Aya steals this episode, like 110%. And he's hardly in this bitch. Like, he's hardly in this. And he steals the episode. And I love that Yuki also, like, Aya's there to stand up for Yuki, but Yuki also stands up for Aya. And I really love that, saying that he can depend on him. Like, yes, he's a bit ridiculous sometimes, but he knows that when the chips are down, he can turn to Aya and Aya will have his back. And I cheered. I was like, yes! You love to see it! Oh, it was so good. Oh, so good. And then Aya even fires back at their mom, because their mom gets all flustered, like, yeah, like, why'd you even come here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bitch, why are you here? You clearly don't even give a shit. Why are you here? And Aya fires back with, you don't even, like, you were just like me back then. You don't even realize that you have trampled on something precious. And it's like, God damn, Aya firing off with the real statements right now. And, then Yuki's mom storms off, and Yuki thinks of Toru, right? He sees his mom storm off, and I'm thinking, like, let her leave, Yuki. She ain't even worth it, dog. But he thinks of Toru, and so he chases after her. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't expect that, because he thinks of Toru saying, do your best. And I think Yuki interpreted that as, like, do your best in all aspects, right? Like, in everything you do, try to be the best you that you can be. Which is good advice, and very Toru advice now that I think about it. But Yuki chases after her and notices just how much smaller his mom is now. Like, when he reaches out and grabs her shoulder, he's actually, like, taller, you know? And he's like, I used to think of you as this, like, big, like overarching force, like this huge towering force in my life, but, like, she's quite small. Like, her shoulder's, like, almost slender. Like, that's different. But it's not different. It's just that Yuki, you know, he grew older. He grew out of seeing her as this arbiter of his future, and, like, the fact that, like, if he lost her, he'd be lost in this abyss. And it's like, no, dude, you are at a point now where you are the sole captain of your own destiny. Like, and that's a moment that hits for a lot of people, you know, like the moment that you realize that your parents aren't, like, godlike beings, and that you don't always need their approval, you know? And, like, that is such a great lesson that FruBa teaches about parental expectations. Like, you as a parent need to keep your own expectations in check. And I've known many parents who are like that, who are, like, I've known parents who are both ways, right? Some parents I've met, like, friends of mine's parents who have been very strict. I've known friends of mine parents who have been very loose. I have been blessed with parents who just kind of want me to be happy, and that's all they really want from me. Kind of like Kazuma, right? Kazuma just wants Kyo to be happy, whereas Yuki's mom wants everything for Yuki, but only because it benefits her. And that's not a good parent. That is selfish. And I do think that it's a great lesson that they put that in there. And they play that damn piano track, which I swear to God, every time they play it, I want to cry. So great. And that smile, by the way, that smile that Yuki gives towards the end of the episode when Short Stack arrives and whisks Yuki away because he's like, President, we gotta go. By the way, I was like, Short Stack, what up, man? Like, when he showed up, I'm like, hey, little man, what are you doing? And he runs up and grabs Yuki like, we gotta go. And Yuki's like, all right. He just runs off. Student council business, very important. And he runs past and he gives Toru that huge ass smile. And it's like, it's not the biggest smile in the world, but it felt like it, you know, because it's just him saying, like, it's gonna be cool. I'm gonna be cool. Like, everything's fine. And he says, I'll see you later. He drops the episode title, and Toru just responds with, yeah, see you later. And he runs off, and I'm like, God damn, FruBa! Why are you so great? So good. I love this show so much. It's such an emotional ass roller coaster. FruBa, why are you so good? But I did say to remember that Aya's outfit is mostly red. The Red Ranger outfit, if you will. A very fantabulous Red Ranger outfit, but a Red Ranger outfit nonetheless. And this is where we find out why Short Stack grabbed Yuki and immediately headed off to the student council room because, to quote my man Olin Rogers, Aya is the Master Commander! Oh man, I got to make another Olin Rogers reference. That makes me happy. But yeah, Aya is proclaimed as the student council commander by my boy Thief. Kakaru's just saying, like, nah, man, yeah, you will be the master commander of the student council. And of course he's just like Yuki's just like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Like, this is the worst. And what I love is my girl Mouse in the background. Machi Mouse just sees this, like, my girl Machi Mouse walking up like, la-da-da-da-da, heading to the council room. Oh, nope, fuck that. It just, like, walks, like, nope, can't be me. Walks away. I'm like, Machi, get your ass back here. It's so cute. And then Hattori even calls to apologize. Like, Hattori calls Teach like, oh my God, I am so sorry. And Teach is like, no worries. You deal with this all the time? Man, I feel bad for you. And that's where we end the episode. And, such a good episode. I loved it. With that said, everybody, I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts on today's video. probably one of my favorite episodes of season 2, honestly. Season 2 is such a good season, though. Where like it's starting to be that season 2 felt a lot like season 2 of Kaguya in the sense that every episode was like, this episode's the best one. No, this episode's the best one. Oh snap, this episode's the best one. Like, you know what I mean? Where every episode seems to be constantly outdoing itself. That's kind of what I'm getting from season 2 of FruBa. But with that said, everybody, if you enjoyed today's video, then don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people, as beautiful as Aya himself. And if you too would like to join these beautiful people, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can help keep this channel afloat, and I would sincerely appreciate it. So a big thank you to the T Squadron, and now I am going to go make myself a cup of tea, probably get to work editing this video straight away, because this one's probably going to be a long one, and until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.